And welcome back to the Macca's Talk Hockey Podcast, the podcast where me and my brother talk about English ice hockey, specifically the NIHL. We're joined again by Dan, and this is the Swindon Wildcats special. Obviously, we're all Wildcats fans. Well, Dan's a Basingstoke fan, but he's watched a lot of the Wildcats last season, and I'm sure you'll be coming to a lot of games this season. But this is special number 6, I believe, because the Bristol Pitbulls one would have been posted by now. That's getting posted today. We're recording on Sunday. And we've got a very special guest. We've got head coach Aaron Nell, who came on, Charlie, and it was a really good interview. We enjoyed it, didn't we?
Yeah, it was cool interviewing Aaron. We're good friends of him. He's really nice to us guys. Really good coach, really good GM. He's a top guy, and yeah, the interview's really good. We enjoyed chatting with him, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm sure a lot of people will be interested to see the interview.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, we've been massive fans of Swindon Wildcats for 10 years. So this is the special, and it'll be interesting to go through the squad. Not too many changes. But if you are new to the specials, we basically look at the team. We look at how they did last season. So a review of how they did last season. We'll cut to the interview with Aaron, and then the second half of the podcast, we'll talk about the team going into next season, who's left, who have they signed, our expectations, and our ones to watch. So we each pick a ones to watch. We have already done 5. We've done Leeds, Bristol, Telford. Oh, I always forget Hull and Bees. So please do go back and watch all of them. They're over an hour each of them. So if you've got some time to kill, or you've got some long journeys to work or whatever, stick them on, and you'll learn so much about the other teams in the league. But let's crack on with it. And it was a difficult season, not even on the ice for the Wildcats. It was all off ice. We start the season, we got the new rink, and then within 1 week, the rink just flooded, didn't it? We had very heavy rains in Swindon, and it completely ruined not only the ice rink but the whole link centre itself. And Charlie, the boys were on the road for 4 months, not knowing whether we'd actually last for the rest of the season. We'd have to pull out.
Yeah, it was weird. I haven't really thought about it for a long time.
Yeah.
As soon as we got back into the home rink, it was back to home away. But yeah, it was an interesting start to the season. It definitely didn't help in terms of maybe challenging for the league or whatever. But no, it was just a lot of traveling. I remember I was sick of being sat in a car. I don't think I could do that again. I don't quite I don't actually know how I managed to go to. I think I went to every single away game during that stretch, and it was long.
Yeah.
There were
And
so many of them.
Aaron talks a bit about it in the interview, so I won't say too much on it. But the boys were literally having no practices at all. We had the 2 preseason games against Bristol, and then that was it. We literally went into Hull. I remember that away day. We went to Hull, Dan, first game of the season, first away game of the season, having no practice sessions whatsoever in the build-up. That was their first time skating together because we hadn't even been allowed to train at Cardiff by then. And they managed to get a 2-2 draw, and they lost on penalty shots to Hull. I remember Rennie was fantastic in that game. But considering we didn't have any training really, there was only a few players who were able to go up to Cardiff or the Ozone to train. We did quite well, didn't we, for those 4 months? We kept ourselves in it, and we kept ourselves in that cup, didn't we?
Is that me?
Yeah, it's to you, Dan.
um, yeah, no, it was sort of, yeah, it was weird, but you could definitely tell, obviously, that they hadn't been training. It does, you can like definitely notice it, especially against a team like Hull. They've probably been on the ice really early in the summer. Um, but yeah, it just showed the character of your team last season. Really, it was just showed every player wanted to be there for the club, and just so they all came together and obviously put in a shift every night to try and get that result. And I think I can't remember the exact record, but I think in those games that you were away from home, I think you only lost about 2 games or something. I think,
Yeah.
and so it's not bad at all. But yeah, it definitely sort of affected the team of the first half of the season, definitely.
Well, I think the fact that we played a couple of our home games away, Obviously, you had the one in Milton Keynes, the one in Bristol. We played the one in Cardiff as our home game, and we still managed to qualify for the cup. I know it took. We won all of our games, and it was down to Milton Keynes to beat Peterborough, and they did. They actually did us a favour. They beat him in overtime, Ross Venus, and that qualified us to play Milton Keynes in the cup. Before we even get to that, though, obviously we signed Gale from the Basingstoke Bison. Gale and Colby link up. We were all excited for that, and I think it was so tough for them, obviously coming down and not even been able to play at home for 4 months, and that's where Gale thrives, isn't it, Charlie, with the fans and in front of the home crowd.
Yeah, don't talk about Gale and Colby.
No, come on, we've got to talk about them. We're a podcast, Charlie.
No, they were amazing. I don't now talks about it as well, but yeah, I don't think we could have had two better imports for the circumstances. They stuck together. They made it through. I think they did trainings together. And yeah, they made the most of a bad situation. I know they're really close with Tyler as well. So I think we should be grateful that we had them two imports during that period of time, because I don't think many other imports would have stuck with it, because it wasn't nice. They weren't training, and I do think, looking back, I do think it did affect some players' seasons. I think players would have had better seasons if maybe we'd have started the whole season at home, and we would have had proper training sessions and stuff like that. And that's credit to Swindon, where what position did we finish last year?
Third.
We finished third. We got to a cup semi-final and got to playoff semi-final. And I think that's credit to the team, considering we did that well. And we only started training in December. Yeah. So, yeah, I was very, very, very proud of the boys. And Gail and Colby were a huge part of last season because they just got on with it. They didn't moan, they didn't faff around. They just got on with it. They just got on the coach and went to all the away games.
Yeah, and it's a credit to the whole team as well. There was another stat. Swindon were the only team to not lose a single player throughout the season, and they didn't bring any new players throughout the season. The team stuck together, Dan, and I think that was a massive part of last season, the team spirit, and we saw that come into the playoffs. I thought the team really, really stuck together in that first tough week against Milton Keynes, and even the cup semi-final against Milton Keynes, where we hadn't had much preparation. And it was just, the team seemed to just gel so much this season. And I love that. And I think that's a big part of why most of them re-signed for next season.
Yeah, I mean, Swindon have never been known for sort of having those summers where players go and come, and this is like a massive turnaround of players. But yeah, last season it's pretty insane that obviously no one ever left and no one ever came in as well. But yeah, like you say, it was just the team. It was just such a good bond, and I think obviously it is a negative that what happened to the rink, but also I think a positive that came from that is the team did come closer together, and I think the bond that created might not have been there if the situations weren't like they were.
Yeah,
I think the fact that all them players they were probably all them journeys to their home away games and stuff like that. It just all adds up, and yeah, they just made that bond sort of just putting everything out there on the ice, and you could definitely see it sort of correlated to both.
Well, before we get on to the stats and the players, let's get on to the highs and the lows. And probably the lowest I've ever felt as a hockey fan, joint with probably a couple games in the last couple of seasons, was that Milton Keynes second leg in the semi-final of the Cup. Milton Keynes hadn't lost a single home game since their first one against the Hull Seahawks, which they lost. They then went on that massive streak. When we went over to Milton Keynes with a 3-2 lead in the first leg. The second leg, I think Milton Keynes went 3-0 up. We got it back. I think it finished 4-3, so it went to overtime. And unfortunately, and it was a great goal, Nell talks about it, Liam Stewart buries it. And in that moment, Charlie, I was just absolutely gutted. I did shed a tear, I'm not going to lie. A tear come out of my eye because we battled so hard throughout that game. And we literally missed out on a final on an overtime goal. And it was heartbreaking, wasn't it, Charlie?
I hate hockey sometimes. Yeah, that was the lowest moment of the season. Apart from hearing the rink could be shut and we won't be a club, and stuff, I thought that was probably worse. But yeah, Liam Stewart came a close second. But yeah, it was tough that game. But it gave me a lot of hope for the season as well. What was disappointing is now spoke about this, right? That weekend we basically were out of the league title charge. We were out of the cup because of an overtime winner. And basically that meant the season not was pointless, but we weren't playing for any trophies until playoffs.
Yeah.
And I know I'm very privileged to say this as a Swindon fan, but we're not used to that as Swindon fans. We're normally in some sort of competition. We're normally competing for some sort of cup. So for Swindon, I can't lie, that sucked because we did watch 2.5 months of hockey, which maybe did drag a little bit at times because we wanted the playoffs. We wanted to be in competition to compete with something. So I think that was even more of the kick in the teeth was the fact that we had nothing to play for afterwards as well.
Yeah.
That was the game. But we were very good in them 2 games, and we took the best depthy team in the league to toe for the whole time. And it was probably some of the best hockey I've seen Swindon play.
I think that those 2 games were proof that we can still battle. Well, we were still battling with the top. We had some great games against Leeds as well. I think the games against the top teams, Dan, has never really been a problem for Swindon. We've always managed to match those top teams and show that we are one of the top teams ourselves. And obviously, come playoffs, we'd had that couple months to prepare for it, get that league position in third secured. So we kind of knew which teams were going to be in our group. We knew Milton Keynes was going to be in it because Leeds won the league. And it was all about preparations for the playoffs. And I've got to say, for that first weekend, the amount of pressure going into it, knowing that Swindon hadn't been able to get to playoffs for a certain number of reasons. Obviously, Aaron talked about how we put the player out, which we accidentally did, and that cost us the playoffs. We then lost the last couple seasons. To go into that first game and beat Milton Keynes and get those 2 points, I think if we don't win that first game, we don't then win the second game against Milton Keynes.
Yeah, no, that was huge. It was an unreal game to be at as well because of the build up. Like obviously, you got a build up of playoff hockey, and then you've also got a build up of like the top teams going up against each other. And yeah, it's just like I always say. I think in this playoff schedule, that first game is so important because it sets it up for the rest of the playoffs period.
Yeah.
And yeah, playing against a team like MK, which you know is going to be tough, but you've been good against them in your own rink, so all season long. So you've had that. You've got that sort of. Yeah, so you got that in the back of your mind, and you're like, yeah, something could happen here. Like, definitely you could get a result here. And then you did. And obviously you carried that because everyone was so pumped after that game. This is what I mean. You carry that over to the next game, and then you go and beat them in MK as well.
Yeah,
and
the first team to beat them in 27
that's even more insane. It's like that was a really good game to be at as well.
Yeah, it was my favorite.
Yeah,
I was going to say
it's just a mind game. It's a whole mind game.
That home game, the overtime winner, it had to be Aaron Nell who scored it. That is top 3, maybe even top 2 hockey moments as a Swindon Wildcats fan. Obviously, we've had some cup wins down the line, which have been brilliant. But that overtime goal is one of my favourite moments. I'm smiling. I'm literally smiling, goosebumps, thinking about that moment, Charlie. And obviously, the Sunday, which Dan touched on as well, was arguably an even better performance. The perfect away playoff game.
That was potentially the best performance of the season from Swindon away. And as Aaron said, you always have to have your goalie on form. But yeah, we were very good in that first weekend. And it was important. And to be honest, I said how it is. We knocked Milton Keynes out.
We did.
And I loved that. I absolutely loved it. That first weekend, Dan talks about having a good start. Milton Keynes got 1 point against us, and that knocked them out. And that made it even sweeter. The fact that I felt after that weekend we're going to qualify, and we did. It was a bit rocky than I thought.
Work of it.
But I felt after that weekend we're going to qualify. And I also felt after that weekend that Milton Keynes aren't going to qualify. And so it was such a cool weekend because we really did prove a lot of people wrong that weekend. And we were the underdogs going into that weekend. And I love it when you win as an underdog. And Yeah, that had to be the best weekend of the season. I was one of the smiliest people you'd ever meet. I was
Yeah.
walking down the MK car park just shouting and chanting.
It was good. Those are the memories of hockey fans which you love the most. Let's go on to obviously the Raiders won the following. We did get that point, which was quite huge. Obviously, Eddie Bedborough securing a point to get it to overtime, and then we secured it against Telford. Dan, do you think it was a bit of a kick in the teeth that we didn't win or challenge to win the away game to to play Peterborough in the playoff semi-final at Coventry?
Yeah, I think looking at it now, obviously no one knew what was going to happen, but looking at it now, you'd probably have preferred that
Yeah.
side of it. Um, but I think Telford just came into that game like a totally different
Yeah,
Telford team to what we've seen, and they obviously had in their mind what they wanted to do,
if they
and
didn't win, they were out.
yeah, and obviously they needed to carry that momentum over as well. And like I said, it's a massive mind game. You have to just keep that going. And yeah, I think it would have taken a lot to beat that Telford team on that night. To be fair, they were just unreal. Every line was popping. They were just all the defensive lines were solid. Everyone was just standing on their head on that game. And yeah, I think it would have taken a lot to beat Telford.
But getting to the Coventry weekend, it was a tough one, was it, Charlie? As a Swindon fan, obviously we were so proud to be there. Our first time watching Swindon, but 4-0 down in 10 minutes. It's one of them in it. Kieran, as Nelly said, Kieran Brown and Macca were on it. We weren't on it in those first 10 minutes, and the rest of the game, I actually thought we battled quite well. But it was that first 10 minutes which kind of just let us down a bit.
Yeah, you go 4-0 down in the first 10 minutes, you're going to lose the game. We seemed a bit nervous to start the game off. Brown and Howlett were on it, and when they're like that, it's very hard to stop them. And them two things I think collided, and obviously we did end up losing. But that's one of them things. We got there, we broke the loss streak going to Coventry. And you have to build on it next year. When you do go to Coventry, you can build on it. As a coach, Aaron will get more comfortable at Coventry, and it will just be hopefully each year we'll build on it, and one day we'll have that playoff trophy.
Before we get into the interview now, looking at a couple of the points then, your boy Charlie Malash, 101 points, his 100-point season back-to-back. And he actually secured that against Milton Keynes, and you weren't there. So you weren't there to witness that. But he got 100 points. Dan, as a non-Malash biased fan, how good was he again this season, just carrying us at moments?
Yeah, you don't if you didn't know his age, you wouldn't think he was that at that point of his career.
Yeah.
He is just so strong, still so strong. Since I've been watching, obviously he's just always been that guy that Swindon have gone to, and the fact that you can still rely on him in those big games is so huge. And he's just so clever, and probably one of the cleverest in the league. With the puck in the corners, just passing. He's just always got that eye for the pass as well. And yeah, he's just such a skillful hockey player.
Yeah. And Charlie, before we get into the Nelly interview, one more player, and that's Glenn Billing. We brought him in this season. Obviously, not the ideal season because he had to play on the road for 4 months, but he fit in straight away onto that top line and proved why he's one of the best centres in this league.
Yeah, he's a top 3 British centre in this league comfortably, and yeah, we're very lucky to have him at Swindon. Every team would take him, and he'd get on every team's top line.
Yeah, he is so good. His hockey IQ, his work ethic, he puts in the points as well, 70 points. I'm so glad he's back next season. But we'll cut to that Aaron interview. Please do enjoy it. I think it's about 45 minutes long. And yeah, after the interview, we'll talk about the roster going into next season. There's a few big changes. Welcome back. We've got a really special guest. Charlie, do you want to introduce him?
Yes, we would like to welcome onto the podcast a Swindon legend. He snipes goals for fun. He's a player coach and a good friend of ours. We would like to welcome onto the podcast Mr. Aaron Nell. How are we doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me.
No, it's been a long time coming. How's the off season been? I'm sure you've been quite busy.
Yeah, it's been really busy. There was obviously had a very tough 12 months here, and yeah, it was every off season's busy. At the start of the summer, it's about British player recruitment, and then this year with the imports, it was a bit of a longer process than the previous year, and but we're ready. It's only a couple of weeks away, and looking forward to it.
All the players, well, not all of them, but quite a lot of them back on the ice as well, which is good to see.
Yeah, we actually last Thursday we had all the British players apart from Rennie, who's not moved down yet. Were on the ice. All the imports aren't here. Well, Thomas was away on holiday, and the other two aren't here yet. So we've never had a turnout like that. So that they're all excited, and just want to build on what we did last year and try and be a little bit better.
Nice one. And also yourself, it's been a year since you had that surgery. How are you feeling? How was it last season after the surgery? Because I know quite a lot of ice hockey players have had that surgery.
I felt really good until I got hurt again. It was February time I got hurt at my knee. Up until then, yeah, I felt great. It was obviously a long year, everything that went on. So once I got hurt there in February, it was tough to that was a bigger problem in my hip. But it's been a good summer, and was it 3 weeks till we start, and yeah, we'll all be ready, including me.
That's good. Go on, Chaz.
So last season, the 23-24 season, give us your review, Aaron.
So it was something that hopefully we'll never have to go through again. Touch wood. But look, it was bizarre. I was just really proud of the club, of the team, the players. We were together over the weekend and talking about some of the stuff that we went through, and being on the road a lot. It was the practice. We practiced once a week in Bristol, and the players they were fully committed to us as a club, to me and my dad as I guess owners, but also to the fans and sponsors. It was they obviously made a decision that they were going to stick with us, and I don't think not many teams would have got through what we got through, and I'm really proud of them all.
And especially as well, keeping every player. I don't think we lost a single player at all. What were some of the difficulties which fans might not recognise when we had that 3 months away from the ice?
Look, it was just chaos. Like, there was times where probably all of October we didn't. There was times in October where I didn't think the ice. I thought we were done. Like that,
Really?
and you try and. I'm always very honest with the players and open with the players. Maybe didn't quite say that. Yeah, we're finished, but there was some bad days. And look, they just took it a day at a time. We built up a great relationship with the players over the last 10, 15, 20 years, and it really pulled through. They're really good. We were going to. We had a lot of people kind of support us, and like the guys at Ozone. We went there on a Friday for however many weeks it was, 12 weeks, and yeah, that was tough. It was just, yeah, you're driving everywhere, but the players, they did everything, and it was only 5-6 of us went each week, and they did it with a smile on their face, even though, look, obviously they wanted to practice in Swindon, not in Bracknell. So yeah, there was a lot that went on, and yeah, we're very thankful for the fans and sponsors that supported us, and the players. We couldn't have done it without the players, and they were exceptional.
Yeah, nice one.
Yeah. Do you want to go the next question?
I was going to say, well, obviously we finally got back and we were able to play the rest of the season. Had your kind of targets changed a bit, because we were still in the cup? We got in the cup through to the semis. What was your kind of, because you'd gone from thinking maybe we might not be able to play the rest of the season to then having to focus back on the rest of the season once the ice had come back?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact weekend, but we talked about the cup very early. It was just something that we knew that we had to go on with the cup games. I think we had to win maybe 9 of the last or 11 of the last 12.
Yeah.
And we did that obviously, and it was just something that we kind of, it was just a bit of a carrot, and we that couple of weeks after when the rink first opened, I think we had 7 home games in 2 weeks, and it was a slog, but the players were so happy to be back. We didn't even practice as a team before our first game on the ice. The first time I think 10 of us got on the ice was the morning of the first game against Sheffield. And then I think the next night we played Leeds. It was one of the best games that we've played. One of the best games we played during that year, and definitely the fastest. And for us to be able to in that situation do what we did was a great achievement for the players.
Yeah.
And this year was probably the first year. I remember in one of the team tactics talks, you talked about how a lot of the top players' ice time went down. How did you find playing with 3 flowing lines of hockey, 4th lines getting chucked out as well? How did you find that this year?
We really enjoyed it. I felt it was the right thing for us to do. We're going to continue with that this year, and push and try and do it even more. The ice time with the top players was down. Mine and Thomas's ice time was down considerably, and I think it really helped us. And it's something that I believe in. We like going with 11 forwards, so you can always rotate one of your top guys in with the 4th rotation, and something that we'll try and do again next year.
Yeah, and I know it's harsh to bring up the cup semi-final. I think it was the first team to really go to MK and actually bring it to them, and it was probably one of the most cruel ways to lose. But I think that all the players almost knew they could really give MK a go, and I think by the time the playoffs come around, we saw it go in our favour.
Yeah, they were 2 great games. But all the games against MK, they were so good at home. There's a few we went there a few times, and we were in tough situations we were just, they were just so much better than us in them situations. But I thought the games, especially in Swindon, I think each team won all their home games. But the games at Swindon were all really close, and it's really tough. They're a really good team, and the semi-final, you get overtime there, and you think maybe it's written in the stars for us to go through, and it was an unbelievable goal that Liam Stewart scored, and that's part of sport, right? Win some, you lose some, and them games were really great games, and they were good to be part of.
Yeah,
man, it was one of the most end-to-end games I've ever watched. That MK game, and not gonna lie, one of the most heartbreaking as well.
There was times where we were just hanging on at the end. I remember, I think Glenn Billings' skate lace broke like 10 minutes ago, and I've never been so. I was every time I came off there, I was like, "Where is he? We need to get him back on the ice." We were. We were hanging on it. Milton Keynes are so good in their rink. The way they move the puck and play it is so difficult to play. And we hung on at times. We rode our luck, but that's what we knew we kind of had to do that. And it was just tough to lose in that situation.
And Glenn, I have to ask you about him. It was his first season in a Wildcat shirt. What a player.
Look, Glenn's great. We've obviously known Glenn for a long time. Always kind of kept tabs on him and just waiting for him to be able to make the move. It's a lot closer to his home, playing in Swindon. And when we had the chance, we knew that we had to get him to Swindon. He was great. He's a dream to have. Every team would want him on their team, and we're very lucky to have him. And he really enjoyed it this year, and he wants to push on and be even better next year.
Yeah. Coming to the end of the season then, and you kind of had those 3 lines set for the few weeks leading up to playoffs, and that first weekend against MK, I think that is one of my favourite, not only just as a Swindon fan, but as a hockey fan. Those 2 games were just phenomenal. And how did you kind of prepare for those games, knowing how difficult they are against Milton Keynes and the playoffs in general as well?
But because of, I think we had a tough weekend in February where we lost to MK in the cup, and then I think we played Leeds. We beat Leeds. That was a great performance, and we got hammered by MK the Sunday night, and that kind of ended any hope of us being anywhere near the league or anything like that. So then we had a while to really prepare for the playoffs, and the players were great that first weekend. It was 2 really good games. I thought the best bit about that first game is they were all over us for it. We were the better team in the first period. Then second period, first 10 minutes of the third period, they were really good. We couldn't get close to them. But once they scored to make it 2-2, we didn't stop. We actually pushed back, and I thought we were the better team last 10 minutes of that game and in overtime. So it was just back and forth and up and down, and it was good. It was and then the next night to beat them in Milton Keynes, I think the first time in a long time anyone beat them, and we deserved it. And Milton Keynes are always going to have lots of possession. It's always going to be, your goal is always going to have to be your best player to beat them. Rennie was, and we deserved to win.
I know you don't like talking about your goals as much, but the emotion you showed after that overtime winner, what was going through your head? Because we talked on the podcast the weekend before how important that first game was against Milton Keynes. So what was the emotions when Gail gave that puck to you and you stuck it in the back of the net?
It was more just the relief, to be honest, because we knew that we have to win on that Saturday. You lose on the Saturday at home, Milton Keynes are going to win on the Sunday. So it was a relief, but it was a great game. It's great atmosphere, and it meant a lot to everyone. And they had their obviously big one in the cup, and for us to be able to do that, it was just the relief of getting a win, and because if we hadn't won that game, would have been, I think, big trouble the next night.
Yeah, I agree. And then we obviously had the slip up versus Romford weekend, but Alford, we bounced back. And how did it feel for your first time as a coach, I believe, qualifying for Coventry?
It was just something with because of the whole year we had. The playoffs were the 3 weeks. It's a grind. It's up and down. It's a roller coaster. And I think the second weekend was really disappointing to play like we did against Romford on the Saturday. It was so frustrating that Lasham scored 2 goals. He was incredible that night, and I just think we had nothing after the week before, and but that happens, and that's how it is. And for us to bounce back like we did against Telford on that Saturday, it was a great atmosphere, and it was just a relief to be able to. Because it has been a bit of a hoodoo. There's obviously the one time we played the illegal player, and a few times in the playoffs we just really struggled. So to get that monkey off our back was important for us and the players.
Talk us through the game in Coventry then. What was it like? How did you prepare for it? And I know we had the bit of a hoodoo at the start, but I actually think the game was a lot closer than the scoreline showed.
I think it's easy to say that. We prepared for it like any other game. I think Kieran and Mac were incredible that night, and we just couldn't handle them. We worked all week on how to try and handle them. And when they play like that, it was the first couple of shifts. Kieran likes to come across and pick up pucks from a certain spot that we talked about all week, and he wasn't going to be stopped that night. The same with Mac. Them two they were incredible that night, and then we pulled it back to what I think was 4-2.
It's 4-2, and then Gospel made that ridiculous.
Gospel made a great save. If it got to 4-3, obviously very easy to say it now, but I think I don't know if the result would have been different, but it would have. If we got back to 4-3, then we would have really been able to push. And yeah, them two players were very good that night, and Gospel was great too. And when that happens, you're in tough.
Yeah, Charlie, do you want to ask about your favourite player? Get him out of the way.
Oh, the best player to ever exist in the National League, Malazzi. Just tell us about the wizard himself.
Thomas is great. He just seems to Thomas loves it here in Swindon. We're very fortunate that he came here. What was almost 10 years ago when he first came over, and he just loves the place. He's a great person. He's a great role model for our younger players. He is the hardest worker in practice, all that stuff, and I think he turns 38.
38 before the season,
yeah, and he's just a great person to have, and hopefully he's got a good few more years left in him, and Thomas is great.
What is it about him? Because from watching him when he was a bit younger, before he went back to Poland, and watching him now, he's still putting up the same amount of points. He's kind of adapted his game a bit, but he's still he's never going to lose that IQ and being able to pick players out and just knowing everything.
It's not even the points for me; it's the stuff he does away from the puck.
Yeah.
I remember Steve Whitfield always used to laugh. He said, "Thank God I never have to play against you," because his work rate away from the puck. It is the way he can take pucks off people. He's so good defensively. And then, like, what I try and tell the players all the time, and all coaches say this: if you're good defensively, you get the offense. And that's his biggest thing. He doesn't go out looking to get points. He just goes to play. He's a great player, and I'm sure everyone would want him if they could have him. And we're just very fortunate that him and his family love it in Swindon, and I think Thomas is going to retire here, and we're very fortunate for that to happen.
Nice.
It must be pretty fun having played on a line with him for probably 7 seasons. It's not too bad.
No, it's good. We've played together basically every year when we've been both playing, and we know what each other's going to do. Very easy to read off Thomas. He wants a puck in certain areas, and he wants to give it back, and that's what works for me too. So yes, it's very easy to play with. Sorry, and I think we have a good connection.
Yeah. Another player I want to mention is Bebris, and I know you made the switch from him to D. We think that was a really good decision, but what was your decision behind it as a coach, moving him to D and carrying on playing him in D, I guess?
You know what, Eddie mentioned it to me once, and I was just like, I didn't even really think about it. And then I remember 2 summers ago, we really tried hard to sign Ed Bradley, actually, before he went to Bristol. And when that didn't come off, it was almost like back to the drawing board a little bit. And I remember speaking to him and I said, "Do you want to give this a try?" He was, "No, I'm really serious about it." And I think he's taken to it really well, how big he is. I think he's more effective as a D, and he's really he's improving all the time from what he was at the start. There was a few tough nights, but he's taken to it really well, and he's a really effective player.
We love Eddie so much. Moving on to next season, I think a good thing to address will be 2 of the fan favourites from last year, and 2 players which I will absolutely love at Swindon. Colby and Gale have obviously moved on. What was the thinking behind that? Obviously, the amazing players. Just talk to us about them amazing two lads.
Gale and Colby were great. They great people. Honestly, I don't think 2 other imports in their situation would have went through what they went through. They had a great friendship between them. I've never seen 2 people have a friendship like them 2 do. And look, it's so difficult. You have your British players. Everyone knows that the British players get sorted out first, and we just felt that we had to make a change to just try and get better. And look, really confident in the two players that we've signed. It might not. It might work. It might work. Might not work. I really hope it does. Obviously, it was nothing that Gail and Colby did. Especially the conversation with Colby was probably the toughest phone call I've had to make as a coach. Because I wanted him to come back. We just felt we had to make a change, and they're great people. They're really good players for us, and they will be missed. But we just felt that we had to go in a different direction.
Yeah. Obviously, moving on to this season as well, I think you started this with signing players quite early, and I think a lot of teams have hopped on the bandwagon now of signing players to contracts early. But what is it about signing these players and getting them into the squad straight away, ready for next season?
Everyone talks their players early, right? So teams have different ways of doing it. Yeah. Our belief is that if we have a player signed, the fans deserve to know that they're signed. Like in the bigger leagues across the world, or in football and other sports, once you sign someone, you don't keep it a secret. You just because I always think like the players at the end of the year, at the end of season presentation, or talking to the fans, and they almost have to like pretend that they don't know if they're coming back or not, or they know they're coming back or not. So we just like for season tickets, we think the fans deserve to know who we're signing, and as soon as we have that information, we put it out. It's not like the next day all the time, but we want people to know that what we're doing, there's nothing to hide, and we see that as the best way to do things.
Yeah, that's a good point. Go on,
yeah, and we do sign up the roster nice and quick. It's always nice for us. We know we've got. We obviously had Whitfield and Cowley move on. I'm sure you'd love to mention on them two amazing blokes.
Yeah, they're great. We're going to really miss them. It's going to be weird. Even like having practiced in the summer without Wits being there has been a bit different. It was good for us to be able to know with them both that they were going to have their last year going into it. And so then you can plan a little bit. It's not a shock at the end of the year or anything like that. But two great players. I've known Russ a long time. I've known Stevie even longer. And they'll really be missed. But it's just, I guess, part of the sport. And we've had a couple over the last 3 or 4 years that have done that, and I'm sure that there's obviously going to be more in the next few years too.
Yeah. You've kept the whole English core bar that. I think that is that because of how impressed you were with it last season and how much it did work for the way you wanted to play.
We wanted them all back. I'm sure every coach says that. But we're really happy with them all. Being able to get Ed Bradley come in was very important to us. And look, they're really good people. There are players like I sell them to new players that I'm trying to sign, how good of a group they are. And they really care. They love being here. So they're a great group, and you don't make changes for the sake of making changes.
Yeah. And how did the move for Jake come out then? Because he was the first one to be announced. Obviously, I'll let you talk about him.
I had a lot of conversations with Jake. I'm guessing you're going to ask about Ryan after this, but Ryan was a very quick thing. Jake took a little bit longer. Really enjoyed his time in the UK a couple of years ago. I think he got traded quite a few times last year, and the ECHL. He wants to be stable. He wants to be at a team where he's going to be a bigger part of that team, and love living in the UK. So I did a lot of work on Jake, calls on Jake, and spoke to probably more people than I ever have about a player, and had a lot of good reports on him, and I think he's going to help us, and hopefully he can take to the league well and be a good player for us.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the stuff which you think Jake will bring, and some of the stuff you're looking for which he's going to add to the squad to try and take that next level?
He's obviously big. He's got a great shot. I think in our smaller rink, we like to have a bigger team, and again, every coach at this time of year loves their team, right? And we're all very excited. But I had so many great reports on him as a human being, and that's the players. They're such a good group. That's so important to us that we bring good people in, and I think Jake's going to be a good player for us and really help us.
Nice one.
And a player which I was very shocked when I saw it. He's got one hell of a CV for our league, I think. Ryan Wells, obviously scoring 16 points in 25 games as a D-man. It looked like he played a huge role in his U Sports team. How did that come about? And an import D as well. So we've gone down there.
Look, we again fought long and hard. Well, we had 2 or 3 months really to think about what we were going to do with our third spot. I just felt the 3 teams or import goalies now. We almost got to the point where we just want to find the best player. And really, honestly, if there was a forward that came available that I just couldn't say no to, I would have signed a forward. We've obviously got flexibility, but I just think with the import D, obviously the one in Hull was really good last year, really affected the game. The one in Solway, there's a couple others obviously at the Leeds. McMullen's really good, and we just felt that D-man could affect the game. He'd be the most effective. So, I spoke to a lot of D this summer. Actually had. Talking to I was talking to 2 for a long time, and one of them decided to go in a different direction, and then Ryan kind of came out of the blue. Had a great conversation with him, watched some video on him, had a great conversation, watched more video, then spoke to his coach, and I just made a decision that we have to get this done pretty quick. Ryan really wants to play in the UK. His dad's British. He hasn't got a British passport yet, but he's going to look to get his British passport, and his coach could not speak highly enough of him. He was a really important player for his team last year. I think all teams are doing a lot of research on the different leagues we can sign players from now, and Ryan was on a really good team in that league last year and played a big role. And they got, I think they got to the semi-finals of the U Sports playoffs in the whole all the divisions. So he played big minutes at the end of the year too in some overtime games. So yeah, he's very excited to be here, and I think he's going to really help us.
Yeah. Obviously, we've lost a couple Brit forwards, or we've lost Cowley, and then obviously you lose that import forward in Gale or Colby. Are you going to approach the season a bit differently because we've got a bolstered defence in terms of Bradley and Wells have come in? And is it a big season for some of those guys who were on the third line last year?
Yeah, we've got flexibility. Luke can obviously play forward and D, and so can Eddie if needed. So we've got flexibility. I also felt if Russ last year, if he ever had an injury, he could play both, and that was and that was really important to us. So for us to have that flexibility, I thought was important. We'll be able to play slightly differently with Bradley and Ryan, and we're looking forward to that. And it'll look slightly different than the last year, but I think that's what we needed to do.
Yeah, and you've got quite a tricky situation with the power play on your hands. You've got 2 D-men there who I think would probably want to be on the power play, and many forwards as well. How are you thinking about that one, Aaron?
It was pretty similar last year. We had I'd say 10 power play players on our team last year. We got 10 plus last year. The same this year. So we'll have 2 units. For a long time we always just basically had the 1 unit, but now last year we had 2. We moved it around quite a bit. I have ideas, but you always have ideas going in, but it always changes slightly. And our power play's been a strength of ours over the last couple of years, and hopefully it can be again this coming season.
Yeah, I think it was. Did it finish over 30% last season?
If it didn't, it was very close.
Yeah,
it was. especially when we didn't have a rink. Our pathway really saved us a few nights, and it has been a strength of ours over the last couple of years, and we need it to be again.
What do you think you need to do next season? Swindon need to do next season to get to the level of Leeds? Because I know you talked about before last season, it's about everyone trying to get to the level of Leeds. So what is it you think you can try and do next season to get on their level and compete for the league? And we're going to have that rink back, which will be handy, I guess.
Yeah, look, it's about having a good start, of course. And then look, Leeds are they're relentless every single night. And I don't know the exact stat, but I know it's like crazy how many wins they've had against the bottom six. I think they've only dropped 2 points against the bottom six the last 2 years. Lost two shootouts, I think. So they are just relentless every night, and that's the difference for them. And we need to. I think it'll be different this year. It looks like it's really exciting, all the imports that are being signed, and I think it will be closer. I think it's about everyone trying to take a little bit out of Leeds to bring them back down to the pack, because how they've been over the last 2 years is it's been incredible.
Yeah.
And on a personal note, Aaron, you got 66 points in 42 games last year. Were you happy with how you played on a personal note?
It was tough. Obviously, the start was difficult because of coming back from the injury, and then because everything was going really well, then the stuff with the rink happened. It just kind of set me back. I think that's all. We were all, by the end of it, we were mentally drained, and I was too. And I think there was like I thought I was doing quite well, and when I got hurt, it was just tough to come back from that. And yeah, by the end of it, I was pretty disappointed. I thought it wasn't the best year for me, but just trying to work hard over the summer to make sure I can get back to where I need to be.
Yeah. Next season, then, I know we touched on it a little bit with Leeds, but what is kind of your aims, targets? Do you have any set ready to tell the players before the season?
We like I've said a few times, every coach now I'm sure is really happy with their team. We talked last year about being in the fight and being in the fight at the end of, and then you never know what's going to happen come the end. And your first target's to make the semi-final of the cup. That always puts you in pretty good stead, and that will be our first one. Where we go after that, we're just it's about competing every night. I'm not going to say to any of the players or to you guys, oh yeah, we're going to win the league. I can't say that. We're going to do our best, and hopefully we can improve on last year and see where that takes us.
Yeah.
And for me, I had to ask about this one player. We could go through the whole team, but this one player in particular, I thought really stood out to me last year. It was his breakthrough season. It was Jamie Smith. Could you talk to us about Jamie? Only 18 years old, playing regular minutes in the National League. What do you think as a coach?
Look, Jamie's doing really well. He's kind of come out of nowhere. He needs to make sure that he keeps on pushing himself. And by the end of the year, we played Milton Keynes. I think we played that week because he was away for the following 2 weeks. He actually wasn't going to play too much in that Milton Keynes game. But then we had someone sick, so they didn't play on the Saturday. So Russ ended up going back up front, and Jamie was playing a lot in them 2 games, and did really well. He skates well for his size, and he's very smart. He's got a great stick, and he needs to now keep on pushing himself. Our younger players get on the ice probably more than anyone. Well, I don't. It might be more than anyone in the country. I don't know, but they have a great thing that they have there with them. They go on the ice 2 mornings a week, and Jamie needs to make sure that he continues to push himself, because he could have a really good career in our sport in this country if he applies himself.
And as a player coach, then, what's it like? You've obviously had quite a few seasons now. What's it like as a player coach? Because I know a lot of people ask the question, but we'll hear it from yourself. What's it like?
It's hard. It's a lot easier when you're playing well, to be perfectly honest. We do a lot of preparation during the week, and that's also that our league's coming on all the time. And I think Leeds and Milton Keynes have just taken it to the next level. You have to be prepared with video now, do a lot of that during the week, and then once we get to game time, I put a lot of trust into Lee Richardson, and look, it's been 7-8 years now. It might be longer, I can't remember, and it's you learn every year, and just trying to continue to help the players be as good as they can.
Nice one.
And how does Lee support you as the assistant coach?
He's obviously on the bench, so he sees so much, and he's got a really good eye for the game, and we get on really well, and have similar beliefs in how we need to play to be successful, and yeah, he does an awful lot for me, and really helps the team do what we need to do.
I know you're still playing, but do you have future aspirations to become a full-time coach once you're finished playing?
Yeah, definitely. That's the goal. That's the plan. Coaching, managing. I don't know what direction it will be, but look, I love hockey, love the sport, love Swindon, and I'm going to try and be involved in the sport as long as I possibly can.
What do you make of the league then? Obviously, we've had the National League back again, I think, for 5 seasons now. I think it's 4 seasons. How do you make of it? Obviously, 3 imports. A lot of teams are going down defence import demon route and a goal import netminder. What as a coach and a GM as well, what's it like?
Look, I think it's improving every year. Of course, it's not perfect, but I think where we've come from when the EPL went down, there was the split league there for 2 years where it was not the best for anyone. I don't think it was great for the teams that went down or the teams that kind of got moved up, and I think that the league's coming on really well. 11 teams for the third or fourth year in a row, or third year in a row, I think, that's not happened very often over the years. So gone through a lot with COVID, and then all the stuff of the last in Swindon, the stuff last year, but all the stuff, the cost of living and all that. We've come through strong, and it's about, I think we always say it's on Saturday night, you're competitive as anything against each other. Then during the week, you help each other, and we try and help as many teams as possible to be successful.
Sorry, Charlie, who's a coaching battle which you enjoy on another team? Who's someone you really like having those coaching battles with?
We're all so into. That's what people like. Maybe I don't know if they understand or not. Like for like the next 9 months, we're every day, but you support each other. I'd speak to a lot of the coaches. We support each other, and that you just want your team to play. It's not really about beating a coach. It's about just your team winning. That's what both teams want. They both want their team to win, and you just try and do it in the best way you can.
And what's your personal opinion on import netminders coming into the league? We got 3 this season.
It'll be very interesting. Obviously, happening in the EPL. The goaltender position is the most important position. So it's obviously, I think we all hope it's not going to be everyone. Like, every team has import goalies. No one ever wants that to happen. But look, teams need to be able to do it if they've got no other options. And I know, like with the Berkshire Bees, they had the goalie they really wanted, they liked, and then he goes back to fight or back to the elite league. Your hands are tied a little bit. So it'll be very, very interesting how it goes. We're obviously very confident in Rennie, but then another reason why we went with the D route is to support Rennie, and we always believe that the better you are like every team says, the better you are defensively, the more chance you have of winning, and we really think that Ryan's going to help us defensively, being a better team.
We could probably do a whole nother episode talking about your career, but I do have a couple questions. A young Aaron Nell playing with Hoogie. What was it like playing with Hoogie? You put up, it was 115 points. I think Hoogie put up even more than that. he got 120, 81 assists. What was it like playing with him in the BIHL?
It was great. I was seeing Hoogie over the weekend actually, and
Really?
yeah, it was first game. I think the first game I came back, we both did really well, and it was just so natural. You just knew where I was all the time, and yeah, I love playing with Hoogie. When it was me, Hoogie, and Thomas, that was some of the most fun that we've ever had, and it was yeah, honestly, it was just natural. Like we just knew where each other's were, and really enjoyed playing with them.
Have you got any personal career highlights
I was
from
going to
your
say,
playing career?
Um, like honestly, I don't really like think about too much. Just thinking about the future. But it was the probably the favorite like trophy we won. I think the one that we played Sheffield at the end of the year, like, after Coventry. And that was a year that I think we had a really good team in that league, and we messed up with the illegal player, so we got kicked out of the playoffs. And to win it as the last game at home, I remember it was a sellout, and it was just you just knew after that whatever happened, it was finished, and that was a great feeling. We've been through a lot as a group of players over the years, and the year that we won the league and we won 15 in a row. I remember that was at Christmas. We obviously never thought we were going to have a chance of doing that, but we just had so much belief, and that was the year that Hoogie came back for the last time, and it was yeah, it was a great couple of months.
One to watch then for next season. As the coach, I'm sure you could pick so many players, but who's the one you would suggest to fans around the league and Swindon fans to watch out for next season?
It's tough for me to say. Obviously, there's
yeah, I know.
Matty Davies picked 3.
Yeah, Davies picked 3.
Picked 3. I don't really know. Look, we're very happy with our team. I wouldn't want to single anyone out really. I hope they all do well. I think that I know like Bally, for example, he had a bit of a tough year. He's really keen to bounce back, and I think he'll have a great year. And all of them, it was a good year last year, and yeah, I wouldn't want to single anyone out, to be honest.
You could have just said Tom
Pretty
Ash.
bad answer.
Tom Ash every year.
If in doubt, say Thomas.
Yeah.
Go on, Chaz.
Aaron, it's been amazing. We'd love to get you on at the end of the season for a season review. But we always end with this question. What is your message to the Wildcat fans? I'm sure there'll be a lot listening.
Look, I just firstly thanks for the support over the last 12 months. I thought the club really came together over the last 12 months. There was some real special nights, and look, we're doing everything we can to be as successful as we possibly can. We're thinking about it every day. The players are ready. They've been working out hard this summer, and want to take the next step. And this, I think, it's going to be a really exciting league. I think the teams at the bottom of the league last year, I think, have improved a lot, and it'll be, I think, more teams being able to beat the top 2 is good for us, and hopefully Leeds don't win every game like they have last 2.
Aaron, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. We appreciate your time. And yeah, good luck next season.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Welcome back, Aaron. Thanks again for hopping on. We love having interviews of Aaron talking about hockey. We probably talk to him about hockey for hours. But let's get into the roster. He's signed up ready for next season, and it's a lot of similar faces. And we'll start with the netminding duo. They're back again. Rennie's back for another season, and Tyler's back for another season. And they just work really well together, don't they, Dan? Obviously, they played together before Tyler went to Bristol. And I think they just complement each other quite well as well, because Rennie feels comfortable with Tyler, doesn't he?
Yeah, you can always see him obviously pumping him up when he's on the bench, and he's loving it when Tyler makes those big saves, and that's where you want in a goalie tandem. Is you want both of those players to be pushing each other to be their best. You don't want the backup to feel like a backup. You know what I mean? You want him to feel just like another keeper, and yeah, they've got a really good relationship. They've obviously worked together for a while now, so they know each other. They know how each other thinks, and yeah, I'm sure in the dressing room they're a really big part of each other's game.
It's important we've got Rennie, Charlie, actually, because there's not many top British netminders out there, and that's why a couple of the teams have had to go for an import netty. And I think if we didn't get Rennie back, we probably would have been looking at an import netty to replace him. So that's just credit to him to show that he is a top goalkeeper still in the league, and he's got a big part to play next season, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's 26. He's going into his primer
Prime.
years, and I think he'll want to have a better season than his last 2 years. I think he'll want to make that jump to the 9+ save percentage and 90+ save percentage, and with the decor in front of him, I think he's got a much better chance this year. I think it's a huge year for Rennie, and I think he'd say that himself. And I think there's a lot of eyes going to be on Rennie, and he'll want to win a trophy. His brother's just won the playoffs, and I know you. I don't like you getting one up on me, and I don't think Rennie will like his brother getting one up on him. So I think there'll be even more fire for him this season.
Yeah, I think he'll be even more confident as well. Obviously, being able to play at home because he is used to playing at the Wildcats rink, so it's going to help that he's actually starting the season in his home rink. He's not playing on the road every single time. He's going to be able to get that rest at home as well. So I think it's a big year for Rennie, and I think he's going to be even more confident with the D, which is in front of him. And we'll start with the person who's left because we do need to shout him out. And I know we mentioned him in the interview with Aaron a bit, but that is Whitfield. He is a Wildcats legend. I wouldn't be surprised if his number gets retired. It might not, but he is a Wildcats legend. He's only ever played for the Swindon Wildcats, which I find crazy, and I have a lot of respect for those players. And Charlie, yeah, there's not much to say about Whitfield apart from he's going to be a big loss on the ice, but also off the ice as well.
Yeah, he's one of the funniest players I've ever spoken to. Whitfield is great, a great laugh. I think I remember I was having a conversation with a player and talking about a team, and Whitfield goes, we'll have them 4-0 tomorrow. I'll bag all four. He's that type of guy, just really funny, proper team guy, and I think the whole team will miss him in the dressing room. He's an absolute Swindon legend, and I'm sure he'll enjoy retirement.
Hopefully, we see him a couple times at the Link Centre, coming to a few games.
Banter with him as well. Arsenal fan he is, so
yeah,
always have a good bit of banter whenever I see him talk about it. He's good.
If he had to watch a few more games this season as well, and his
really
retirement.
Nice to the fans. He's just a good guy, you know. He's one of them. Swindon never played for a team which wasn't Swindon. Swindon Junior, Swindon Mains, retires.
Yeah,
that's how it goes.
He is, and I think he deserves a lot more credit than he has been given for how much he has actually put into this team, throughout the loyalty as well he's put in. But we will be without him. But let's look at, before we get into the new boys, let's look at the ones who's re-signed, and we've actually got Jacob Minter on a two-way with the Slough Jets. He played a couple games at the end of last season, but he is on a 2-year deal. With Slough. So I'm not sure if we'll see him too much. We might see him in the odd games if there's some injuries, or he can come in for some cover. But he's a good little young D-man to have a two-way with. Luke Johnson is back, but with the additions of the D, we could see him play a bit of forward as well, Dan.
Yeah, I think you might be right with that, because looking at who's come in and stuff like that, it sort of makes sense. I think having a player like Luke is so big. The fact that he can play in both positions, I think that's so key, because it just sorts you out if there's injuries, different scenarios in a game, if there's injuries halfway through the game. It's just like having a player like that, a bit like Liam Morris, for example. Having a player like that is just so key to a team, and it's so helpful. And he can definitely do a job on whatever line he gets put on as well.
Yeah.
He's the guy we'll mention a little bit later as replacement, I would say. I know it sounds silly, but I think he's playing that role this year.
Yeah, I agree, actually. We'll talk about it in a second. Jamie Smith, another big year for him, Charlie. Just keeps getting better and better. And he kind of solidified himself on that third line last season. And I'm sure we're going to see him playing a lot more minutes as well on that third line this season, with what we assume will be Sam Godfrey. And that is a very strong third D partnership, isn't it? If that is going to be it.
Jamie Smith is one of the best under-20 young British D-men in the league, and he has got a very good ability of just shutting down players and also not feeling the pressure. Now had some great words to say about him, which you guys would have heard from the interview. And yeah, he's just a very, very good talent. And one thing which was really encouraging is he's not on a two-way this year. He's not on any two-way. He is going to be in Swindon's decor for the whole season, which is great. And I think every season he's just going to keep improving. He's still only 18, turning 19, and I think he's like 6'5". So he's a big guy with a big stick, and I think the way he'll improve the best is when he uses his stick even more.
Yeah, and he's got a good defenseman in Eddie Bebris to learn off using his stick and the height and stuff. So, but he is a different defenseman to him because he's a lot more stay at home. Like, you can trust him to be able to shut down some of those top players, even if he is playing on a third line. So I can't wait to see him this season. He just keeps getting better and better, so much more comfortable. When we're watching him, we're just watching. We're like, he's so chilled, man, and like he just does all the right passes, all the right stuff. And don't get me wrong, he's got so much to learn because he is still so young. But yeah, he's a very good talent to have, and Godfrey next to him as well. You know what you're getting with Godfrey. I think he'll be quite a good little person for Jamie to play off, actually, because Godfrey does like to rack up the assist, doesn't he, Dan?
Yeah, and he's been around the game for so long as well. He played in Guildford. I think he's probably won a few cups with Guildford because they were a pretty solid team. But yeah, he's gonna be a really good guy for Jamie to learn off because, like I say, he's obviously been in the scenarios. He's been a youngster once, and it can just pass that over to a guy like Jamie Smith. It's going to be so important for keeping these young D-men.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't know how many times I've said it now, but these young D-men are just so important to have, and just keep building them. Don't put them on the bench. Just keep putting them out in those scenarios, and they'll definitely get better. They may make a few mistakes, but that's all part of the learning curve, and it will soon work out in the end.
They're the future. And someone who is still young in my eyes is Tyler Plews. But he is a veteran for the Wildcats, isn't he, Charlie? I'm not sure whether we'll have AA next season. I assume he will. Could even have the captaincy. I don't know if it'll be taken off Bully, but Tyler Plews is back. You know what you're getting with Tyler. He's a strong, heavy D-man. He will put his body on the line. He's not afraid to make those hits. He's an old school D-man, isn't he, like his dad?
Yeah, he's on a 2-year deal as well.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't see him going anywhere else bar Swindon. And yeah, just what you want in a D, good top 4 D. Most fans in the league really rate him as well. One of them guys people just know he's good. And he loves a big hit once or twice a season where he just crushes someone. So yeah, I'm really happy with that re-signing. I think it's a very good re-signing. And yeah, Tyler, he's a Swindon through and through, really good with the fans as well. And yeah, just a very good D-man.
He actually got 26 points last season, which for someone who is quite a defensive D-man, every season he has improved on his points. So I'm not sure what he's going to be looking at points-wise this season, but I don't really think he'll be worried too much on his points because of the players we've brought in. He's there to kind of shut down those big guys, isn't he, Dan? And next to him, which is what the D partnership was last season, is Eddie Bebris. And there is debates about whether he should still be a forward, but I think we're all in agreement after watching him for 2 full seasons at D. It is his place now. He is one of the top D men in this league. Yes, he's a great power forward to have, but I think he's a better D man than he is a forward. And I know he's played forward for a long time, but he's such a standout D, isn't he? Just the little stuff he does.
Yeah, it's his strength that really does it for me. Like, the way he can just hold players off and he can get the puck back and just out-muscle guys around the boards. Yeah. It's just that's the biggest aspect, I think, that he's got. And he's obviously really good with his reach as well. He uses that every time. Really good at skating. But yeah, it's definitely got to be that strength and the use of his stick for me. The way he can just pickpocket players. he can either lift their stick and get the puck, or he can put his shoulder in and get the puck. He just uses it so many different ways and uses his strengths to his game so well.
Charlie, what's interesting, right? I know you miss that power forward in Bebris. I get that. And this season, because we've got 8 D-men, or 7 D-men, he could actually go up into a forward if you really need to add that. But he got 48 points in his first season at D. He got 33 points last season at D. The season he was on forward, he got 43. Now, I'm not saying he's this not a great point scorer as a forward, but I actually think he still gets the license to go forward as a D-man as long as he's got the right D partner next to him, and that is Plusy, who's a stay-at-home D if he needs to be.
Yeah, he's a good D-man. I don't know.
He's my favourite. He's my favourite Swindon player.
I'm not going to debate it with people anymore.
Yeah.
Every coach I've spoken to agrees, and Bebris is a good D-man. I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah, we're happy Bebris is back. And yeah, as I said, he's my favourite player. I love watching him. He's so cool as well. And then 2 new boys on the block. We'll start with Ed Bradley, who was actually announced all the way like a week after the season had finished, or 2 weeks after the season had finished. And this is a great little ad again. He is a point scorer, isn't he, Dan? A point per game at Bees. Just less than a point per game at Bristol. Just less than a point per game at Bees the season before. He is going to get points in this team, isn't he? Especially, he's not played for a team which is one of the top teams. No disrespect to Bristol or Bees, but he is now going to be playing in a team which is going to be challenging for silverware and playoffs.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I'm really excited to watch him because this is going to be a season where he could really, really do something this year. Because he's an unreal player, but sort of the players around him maybe sort of might not have been up there, you know what I mean? Like he's saying with the top team, but now he's going to be in that dressing room where these players want to win, and they can win. He's got the resources now where he has everything on his side. This season, yeah, this could be a huge season for him, and he's going to be just as buzzing as everyone else in that dressing room because he's finally going to be in this environment, a winning environment, and he's going to be going out every game, having a chance to win these big games and going up against these big opponents. And yeah, it's going to be huge.
He's someone which Aaron said on the interview when we asked about him that he's been looking at for a couple seasons, and he's finally managed to get him to sign in a Swindon shirt. How excited are you to watch him? Because we know what he can bring to a team.
Yeah, he's a big player. He has a big offensive output. With the D-men we've got around him as well, I think he's going to thrive not being the main guy. He's going to thrive just being able to focus on what Ed Bradley is good at. And I think, yeah, I'll say it after we've said the next guy, but yeah, next time.
Wow, this is the biggest one for us. We've gone with an import defenseman, Mr. Ryan Wells. And as Aaron talked about, it's quite a late addition. But he waited and he's managed to get an absolute peach, hasn't he, Dan? Ryan Wells, he's played in the OHL when he was in his youth years, and he had a really, really good season with the Mississauga Steelheads. He got 16 points in 61 games in the OHL. It was very nice. And then he did 4 years in U Sports. And in his final year of the U Sports, Dan, he got 18 points in 25 games as a D-man. And that's not just it. We've spoke to people, and he played penalty kill. He was on power play. He was the most iced player in the whole of the U Sports. He is going to be massive for Swindon, isn't it? I think this is what we've been looking for, isn't it?
Yeah, he's going to be something special. Another guy that I'm really looking forward to watch because I probably will be at a lot of games. But yeah, he's going to be the stuff that he could bring to this team that you've not had for the past 3 or 4 seasons.
Since Sam Jones, really.
Yeah, it's going to be unbelievable. He's not the biggest, but I think the whole offensive side of his game, and I think he's going to be really smart. He's going to obviously he wouldn't be played in all those scenarios if he wasn't a smart hockey player. You know what I mean? He wouldn't be the most ice player in the youth sports if he wasn't a really good defensive-minded D-man.
Yeah.
Like, he's not. He just won't be in those situations. So the fact that it's been pulled off and he's going to be coming to Swindon in this league, I think it's going to be something special.
Charlie, it does look ridiculous. He was first in takeaways in the whole of the U Sports as well. Toronto, they got to the semi-finals of the U Sports playoffs, and I think he scored an overtime goal in one of the games, which was an absolute peach. I can't wait to watch him.
In the 21-22 season, says on Elite's prospects, he was the U Sports OUA Far West first team All-Star, whatever that means. But I'll say something now. I think on paper, and it's a big on paper thing, but I think Swindon have the best decor in the league on paper.
Wow.
I think that'll be controversial to some people. Please at me and tell me you disagree with me. But I think we got the best decor on paper. We've got, in my opinion, we've got obviously Bradley and Wells added. We've already got Bebris and Plews, and then you've got Godfrey and Smith as a third pair. Like, any D pairing you play, we're going to be so much better defensively. I think Rennie will be the happiest man on the planet. He's got a decor in front of him, which is really, really strong. And yeah, that U Sports D man, he's scored. Say it how it is. He scored double the amount of points any other U Sports D man in the league has. Yeah. He looks really good. He looks really, really, really good. That's what I'm excited about. Like, there isn't a D man in the league who has a CV like him who isn't called Davy Phillips. Like, and so I'm so excited to watch this guy. He looks so good. He's played with loads of NHLers as well. At the OHL, he's played with Owen Tippett, Nicholas Haig, Nathan Bastian, Ryan McLeod, and then Thomas Harley as well, just to name a couple of the NHLers he's played with. So yeah, I'm buzzing. Cole Sweet as well. So I'm so excited for him. He's the guy I'm looking forward to so much this season.
Dan, this is the kind of level which some elite league teams do sign on defensemen, and the fact that we've punted, obviously, we don't know the ins and outs about it, but we've managed to get him in. Obviously, we missed that import forward, but I think what we've been lacking is being able to shut down games, specifically away games in those different rinks. And I think Ryan's going to be able to do that. And whoever he's going to be playing with, whether it's Bradley's going to be playing with one of the best D-men we've had in this league. And we could see an even more ridiculous Bradley. And also, Ryan on the power play is just going to be brutal for other teams. Like, one of the stuff which was mentioned was how good he is at jumping in the play, timing when he's going to jump into the play on the D-man, get points. If he's playing with Malazinski and Malazinski's trying to find someone to pick out, Ryan's going to be there. It's just, I know we're gassing it up so much, but he does look like the real deal. And we haven't had a D-man, like we said, like this since Sam Jones. And this guy is probably going to be better than him, isn't he?
Well, I think a lot of teams have finally noticed how important a strong decor is. Yeah. This season, you can see a lot of teams have improved their decor or their goaltending, obviously bringing in the import goalies. But yeah, having that decor, like Charlie said, I would probably agree with him as well about probably being the best decor in the league. It's just so important. Like, the amount of times in games when you have to rely on that decor to shut down games is just, you don't notice it until you have it. You know what I mean? Like, when you have that decor that you can rely on, you notice how much of a difference it'll make. And you'll notice it from last year. You'll notice those pairings, they'll come out and it won't feel like your third pairing's out. It won't feel like you've got your second pair out. It will just feel all very equal. And yeah, a lot of teams have done it. So a lot of teams have needed to bring in D-men to match it as well.
I've seen a couple comments and people saying he's, someone said this, right? The Canadian Ed Bradley. And I'm sorry, this guy was put out in penalty killing over some guys which are 6'4", 6'5" on the
He's a
team.
Canadian
He is
Brad.
going to be
He's gonna get about
ridiculous at
80 points,
skating.
obviously.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. He's playing in a defensive a league which is a very strong two-way league, and he's been put out in any situation. Yes, he's 5'10" or whatever it is. Obviously, elite prospects isn't always right, but yes, his offensive stats are amazing. I think that defensively, he's going to bring so much to Swindon as well. Just having him in the team, I cannot wait. But we've talked about him a lot, and that completes the decor, a very strong decor, as Charlie said. And I know it's all on paper, and we'll see how it works out in the season. But I cannot wait for those pre-season games. And then going into the forward core, we got to talk about him, Charlie. I think you've labelled him as the nicest guy in hockey, and there's a lot of nice guys we've spoken to. But Russ Cowley has retired from hockey. Obviously, we're sad to see him go, but we're glad that he ended his career at Swindon. And it is going to be another big loss, isn't it, Charlie?
Yeah, he's one of the great British hockey. Really good player. Had 2 really good seasons for Swindon, and yeah, I really enjoyed watching him. He's one of my favourite players. Watching just hockey IQ on another level, really. And yeah, what a player.
You could trust him to play defense. You could trust him to be that forward. And I'll let you mention it now, Charlie, because I think this is what you were waiting to say. Luke Johnson can play D and he can play forward as well. And we saw Russ Cowley having to drop into D a lot last season with a couple of injuries. I think Luke Johnson is probably going to possibly take on that Cowley role. Yes, he might not be as high profile as Russ Cowley, but he can certainly do a job which Russ Cowley did, Charlie.
I think Luke Johnson will be taking on that role, and he's not going to get the points of Russ Cowley. Like Luke would agree with that. He's not going to hit a point a game. He hasn't done that in his career, but he's a very clever two-way defensive forward who maybe plays with the fourth line and plays with some younger players, or plays penalty on the third line, and then he's going to be huge on the penalty kill as well. So yeah, Luke Johnson's going to, I think, take on that role. And I'm really excited to see him take on that role. I think it's built for Luke Johnson, that role. And yeah, Cowley will be a miss, and we are going to have to replace his points. But I think Luke will come in, fill his shoes, and really have that clever two-way defensive-minded forward role.
I think that's
also D-man if you get injuries.
It's a key this season. I think we know we can score goals, but we're looking to try and shut down games a bit more, try and win those low scoring games like Leeds have done, because you've got to look at Leeds when you're trying to be better than them. You have to try and look at what you can do to try and be better than them. I think the defense as a whole has improved massively. Dan, Colby and Gale, obviously as fans, we're sad to see them go. I think they're the 2 imports which is connected the most with the Swindon Wildcats fans off the ice and on the ice as well. I think they were really good on the ice. But I think it was just a change, isn't it? And changes need to be made. We're not saying they're bad hockey players at all. We'd love to see Gale and Colby in Swindon shirts, but obviously he's gone for that import D. That means you wouldn't have to have one of them. And I think they don't come as a pair, but they almost do as well. And yeah, I'm going to be sad not to see him next season, but we've seen players from Swindon who we've loved before move on, and it's just part of hockey, isn't it?
Yeah, they everywhere they go, I think they'd be a fan favourite. Obviously, Gale and Basingstoke, everyone loved him in Basingstoke. And obviously going to Swindon, I knew everyone would love him at Swindon as well. But yeah, like you say, you can't really do that to them. You can't keep one and just ship off the other. You know what I mean? You can't. Obviously, I don't know what was said, but he didn't say, "Oh, I'm going to keep you and get rid of you" and stuff like that. He obviously came to a mutual agreement with the both of them. But I also think these imports nowadays, you have to get those points. And I think obviously we've spoken about Gale. Obviously, he was never played on the top line and stuff like that, and the points obviously come with that. But I've always rated Colby. Like I said, I've always rated his skating. I love his strength. I love how clever he is around the corner. But the points from an import, you don't really get that. If we're in the old EPL days, player like Colby, 100% take him on any team, because you can allow for those sort of deeper guys to be those imports.
Yeah.
But in a league with 3 imports, your imports have to be firing. Like you have to get those points. They're the guys that you go to for points. So I think it was sort of the wrong scenario for Colby, but not taken away from both of them. They're both unbelievable players.
I agree with you, actually. I think the fact that it is only 3 imports and we were kind of forced to go with an import D possibly, or an import goalie if Rennie went, you have to take one of them out, and then you've only got 2 import forward slots. You know Malash is going to get one. You're not going to have both of them back. I would compare Colby. It's a different type of grinder player, Charlie, who was able to put up points as well, but to Coastal. If we've got 5 imports or even 4 imports, I think most teams would take a Colby to play on that third line power play, penalty kill role, because he's just works so hard. There's Charlie's got a Coastal pillow, but he's similar to him in that he's not an out-and-out point scorer, but all the other qualities you would take him in a 4-5 import league, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and Colby actually did get 60 points in his first season.
Yeah.
Part of it goes down to role as well. I don't think Gale ever fully found his place on the line during the season.
Yeah.
And Colby was more playing that depth forward because of how good our offense was and how depthy it was last year. But you're competing against Malas as well, and you're not getting on the top line when Malas is on the team unless you are a generational player in our league, like a Grant Cooper level of player. So yeah, it's difficult when you come in, and I think Gale struggled at times to find his place, but he was a very big game player, Gale. I think his big games were underrated last year. He scored the winner against Leeds in a 1-0 win. He was big in both MK games in the playoffs, and Colby was big in the playoffs as well, actually. And then he was also, I think he had another moment, I can't remember where now, but I know he played well. Good against Milton Keynes, the game I missed. He set the tone for that game with some big hits. But yeah, it's one of them things where sometimes in sports you have to change things up. And we had to change something up. We weren't quite on level with Leeds and MK last year. We lost Cowley, and maybe the decor wasn't as strong as it could have been. And so we went, all right, import D-man, and then that means you have to get a very dominant import forward, which now it's done.
And it might not work. Like you do have that risk of it. I think Aaron even said it might not work, but you're hoping it does by making those changes, and it's tough changes you've got to make. So we're going to miss Gale and Colby. We'll always stay in contact with them. They're such great guys, and I'm sure the Wildcat fans will remember them as well. And yeah, so they're gone. But we've pretty much retained most of our forward core. We'll start with a couple of youngsters. We've got Dylan Lipsey and Josh Shaw. They've returned back for next season. I think they've got more bigger seasons for them. I know Lipsey's on the 2-way with the Wildcats too, which is going to be brilliant. He's going to get on the ice more, but I do still expect them, Dan, to play a lot of minutes in our team as well.
Yeah, 100%, especially after a strong season from both of them last year.
They ended the season quite strongly, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, especially in those games like leading into the playoffs where you do rest your sort of big guys and you sort of give the opportunities more to your youngsters. Yeah, they showed what they could do. When they got given that opportunity, they didn't put it to waste. I'll tell you that. They're so young still, but the fact that you can put them out in those scenarios against some good lines, to be fair. I think they were going out for a few power plays as well. Sort of later on in the games and stuff like that. But yeah, I think there's a big future for them, and being able to retain them, like you said, with Lipsey being on the ice more is only going to be better for him. Josh Shaw, I think he's got a big season coming up. He's still young, but he's been around sort of Swindon for a while now, and he's going to be looking for that more regular ice time. I think he's going to be looking to get that role in like the bottom 6 and sort of have that regular ice time throughout the games. So it's definitely going to be a big season for both of them.
I think Charlie, with a couple forward slots opening up, going with the D-man import and then losing Cowley, Nell's chosen to stick with Josh Shaw instead of just going out and getting another bottom 6 guy. Do you know what I mean? He's putting his trust in it. I think that's key for Josh next season to be like, okay, I'm getting this chance now. I'm going to get some more ice time. And I think he'll be looking to try and get possibly double the points he got last season.
Yeah, Josh is a very good youngster, and he deserves his opportunity, and I hope he gets consistent minutes. He gets more minutes than last year, and he was much better in the second half of last year than he was in the first half, and hopefully he's better in the first half of this season than he was in the second half of last season, etc. So yeah, he's a young player, a lot of talent, been in all the GB squads from a young age, and yeah, I think he'll want to kick on this year and have a breakout year.
Captain Sam Bullas is back again. And I think he's got another big role to play. He might be playing on that third line center, but he can also play as a winger on the third or fourth line to help a couple of those youngsters. He's a big game Bullas. That's what he was last season. He scored in the 2 goals in the Coventry playoffs. Scored against Milton Keynes in the playoff away game. So he can chip in when you need to, and he can also play on those top 2 lines if you need him to as well. He was with Gale and Bally last season. So that he is quite key to the team, and I'm glad he's back next season. And then 2 players which I think have got very big seasons with even more responsibility put on them is Bally and Reed. And obviously with the import slot going to the D-man, this opens up a top 6 role for Bally or Reed, or even both of them, Dan. And I think Bally will be looking to hit those heights which he hit a couple seasons ago, and I think he's going to get a lot more opportunity as well this season.
Yeah, he's definitely got to take it this season. He had a bit of a tough season last year. He picked it up on the second half.
Yeah,
but
he did. Yeah,
first half was really tough. But obviously you don't know what, like we said, you don't know what the rink did to a lot of the players. It might have changed a lot of people's like mindsets and stuff like that. So next season, with that role up for grabs, he's going to definitely need to start the season off strong. Going to get that role early. I'm sure through pre-season now is going to give both of them an equal opportunity to sort of see how he wants to go about things.
Yeah.
But yeah, 100%. It's just going to push both of those players on to really push to their best and really get that role for the regular top 6 minutes.
Charlie, we know what Bally can do. He's played on that top line before with Aaron and Malash. Reed's really interesting because we know he's got the talent. We know he's so good with the puck, stick handling. He's always been a pass-first player. And if he does play on the second line with this import which we've brought in, it could be a big year for him to find his role on that second line and be that playmaker which he's always been coming up the ranks.
Actually, it's a huge year. You've really said it there. It's a huge year for Reed.
Yeah, it is. And Chris Jones is back. Obviously, he was the assistant last season. I'm sure he'll be the assistant this season as well. He's got another big role to play as a centreman, which is key, obviously, after losing a couple with Cowley, Colby, and even Gale played a bit of centre last season. So it'll be interesting to see whether he plays second line. Will he be on third line? He brings depth if we need to. He can play power play, penalty kill. Chris Jones, he's the man which Nell always trusts and relies on. And then looking at the top end on the top line, you've obviously got Tomash and Aaron. We know what they can do as a duo. And actually, it's interesting. Obviously, speaking with Aaron, Charlie, he did have that little injury. It'll be interesting to see fully fit Aaron going into this season. Can he possibly push up to those 90-point mark to 100-point mark again this season?
Yeah.
Nothing to add? Nothing on a podcast you want to talk about? Just one word answers.
Aaron and Malas are good. I think he said in the interview that he can have a better year. He wasn't fully happy at times. He still got injured again at the end of the year, and at the start of the year, it took him a while to get back, especially with no training. So yeah, I think now can have a much better season, and Malas does Malas things.
Yeah, Malas will just be Malas. He might not get 100 points this season. He might, but if he doesn't, hopefully that means other players in the team have stepped up and have allowed him to not have to, put everyone on his back. Do you know what I mean? So it'll be an interesting season to see how much he carries sometimes for Swindon. I'm sure he's always going to carry. I'm waffling on. Billin, he's back, obviously. I think he's going to be very key, whether he's on first line centre or second line centre. But we'll move on to the main guy. We know all the guys. Pardon?
Billing 2 years.
Oh, yeah, 2 years. Billing signed a 2-year deal, which is key. It's great to have Billing back for 2 years. And the new guy, Jake Bricknell, He's our only new forward we've brought in this season, and he is the import forward. And he's got a very nice CV to have as an import forward. 6'1". He can play centre or right wing, but he's played predominantly on the right, I think, for his teams. He played in the OHL like Ryan Wells. Scored some good points in the OHL. One of them being 18 points in 50 games. He racks up the penalty minutes as well. Not too much, but he's shown that he can play that physical game. He can drop the gloves. Most recently at the Manchester Storm, he played 44 games for them. He got 17 points, 71 penalty minutes. He dropped the gloves a fair few times with some of the big guys in that league. Charlie, ECHL as well last season. He looks like a very solid import, doesn't he?
Well, I'm very excited for him. I think again, I think Nell's done very well at signing imports this year. He's got a cannon of a shot. Noah McMullen said he's got the hardest shot he's ever seen. And yeah, he's played in good leagues. He had a decent record for Manchester on less minutes of ice time. And yeah, I think he'll be very, very good. I think it's a very, very clever import signing. And yeah, I think Now's done an excellent job with imports this year.
Dan, it adds a bit of height, obviously a bit of strength as well. There was a couple people questioning, he was at 4 ECHL teams, but it's quite common to be traded at any time in the ECHL, isn't it? And I think he got traded around a couple times, and he found his home at the Reading Royals, getting 13 points in 43 games. And I think he's come to Swindon to find that home where he can play the whole season and be one of the big guys in the league.
Yeah, he's going to be, obviously, yeah, he's got an opportunity now. He is an import, so he is going to be that big guy in this league. Obviously, playing in the ECHL and stuff like that, you get a lot of players that are like you. Like, they're those Canadians, it is natural to that league. But bringing them into the National League, obviously, those Canadians are the top guys. And I think he's going to want them players that want to be the big guy. We can see from his stats, he plays with an edge, a little bit like Gale. And I think it's sort of a running scene with imports nowadays, that we get those imports that are playing with an edge, and they're sort of getting their physical, hard hitting, defensive games with the youth sports and stuff like that is really strong. But yeah, I think he's going to be a little bit like Gale, but maybe a little bit better.
He might score a lot more goals. In the U Sports, he got 27 points in 23 games. He's definitely a point scorer, and I think in this level, not the elite league, it's the league below, he'll be given an even bigger role than he was at Manchester. And I think Charlie's going to be looking to get 70 plus points this season if he's put in those situations.
I don't know if he'll have a points target, but I think he's going to have a solidified top 6 role.
Yeah.
He's most likely going to be on a good power play unit, whether it's the first or second. Yeah. And yeah, I just think he'll be a very big piece of Swindon's offense, probably top four forward in our team. And so a top 4 forward in our team, I'd want to get 70 plus points.
It'll be interesting to see who he's playing with on that top 6. Expectations for the Swindon Wildcats then going into next season. Fingers crossed, touch wood. We'll have the home rink for the whole season. So that's another positive we can tick off. Looking at the team, Dan, we've obviously bolstered our D-core. We have lost some points in the forward core, but you've got those players like Reed, Bally, and even Britnell as well, and Josh Shaw as well, who'll be looking to make up for those points which we have lost. It's looking like a promising season.
Yeah, I think you say you've lost those points in the forward. I think you're going to sort of try and make up for that with the games that you can shut down defensively. I think,
and the D will score so much more points as well.
Yeah, I mean, you've got really good point scoring D-mans. Obviously, Beveris, Bradley, Wells as well, just to name a few. But yeah, I think it is going to be, in the forward core, it's going to be a season where it's going to be opportunities. There's opportunities up for grabs. So there's players up to the players now to sort of go for those opportunities and really see what they want to do with their career with Swindon. And I think, it's going to be a stronger team in those big games, I think, especially with this more solid defensive core.
what do you think the expectations will be in terms of trophies, playoffs, the league positioning, stuff like that?
I think league positioning a bit like last year. I think Swindon will be happy with top four, top three. Obviously the teams have obviously improved. I think you got so close last year, so I reckon you're going to be going for that cup.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to really want that cup this year, seeing how close it was last year. Obviously just an overtime it was stopping you from going to a final. So that's going to be playing in their minds. It's going to push them on harder. Maybe getting to Coventry. Obviously, it wasn't how it didn't work out last season, but obviously you're going to be wanting to go in there with a different mindset this time. Done it now. You've got there. It's all about getting there again and making sure you get there for the next seasons to come.
Yeah, Charlie, similar stuff, or are you looking as a fan to really try and push for the league title?
I definitely think we need to finish in the top three. And I think I'd like to see us push further. My expectation isn't for Swindon to win the league, but I want to see us solidify a gap between us and fourth place at minimum. For me, and I'd like to see us make a cup final. And give it that shot at winning a cup. I think there's two very good teams in this league ahead of us on paper, but I don't mind the paper argument. And like I said, I think we got the best D core in the league, and I think D wins you lots of games.
Yeah,
be so important in games, and we have quite a bit of ifs this season. But if they get answered, I think we can be really strong. So for me, top three finish where you're closer to second than you are fourth. If you finish third, if you finish above third, I'm really happy with the league. And then in terms of cups, playoffs, and cup, I want to qualify for that first cup, and I'd like to see how we get along there. And then playoffs, in one of the cups of the playoffs, I want to make the final. And I want to have a go at the cup. But yeah, we'll see.
With the bolstering of the defence, obviously we won't know how much of an impact it has compared to last season until we see it. But with the additions we've made, with how much stronger our D-core looks, I'm really hoping, and hopefully Rennie will be even better and more confident as well than he has been last season. It's not saying he's not been great, but we could see Rennie. You could see Rennie, as Charlie said, in that 0.9 save percentage, which will be huge. I really do think we can challenge for a cup this season. And as Charlie said, I'd love to make a cup final. I think we've got to qualify for the cup and we've got to qualify for playoffs. I think that'll be on every player's mind. And we just got to push for that league title, keep it going as long as possible. And if we're still in with the shout by the end of the season, let's go for it. And you got nothing to lose. Obviously, Leeds and MK, they'll be everyone's favourites to win the league. And so be it, because they do have fantastic squads and they've been there, they've done it. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if everything can click and we can get a bit more consistency with those away wins. I really do think we got a shot, and I hope we can bring home a trophy this season. I know every player in this team is hungry to win that trophy. So yeah, I can't wait. Ones to watch. Dan, will come to you first. Who's your ones to watch as a non-biased Swindon, as a hockey fan?
I'm gonna go with Rennie Marr.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Bit different. I think as much as the defensive side, like your decor, I think is such a big season for Rennie, because we know what he can do. He's obviously stood on his head in some games last year, like the whole game you said, like in MK, stood on his head. He might have, no disrespect, but he might have been a bit left out to dry last year.
Yeah.
Obviously, he can't do anything about it, and he is a goalie that we know he does get in his own head. I think this is going to be a big season mentally for him, and obviously he's got that support in D this season. So I think this is the year where he really needs to push himself to his best and really get that good production in goaltending, and really show that these brick goalies can still be the go-to guys for this league.
He'll definitely be battling it out to try and get on those top levels with Gospel and Headley as well, with the improved decor. Charlie, who's your ones to watch? I'm actually excited to hear this.
Mine is Bally.
Oh, nice.
He's 25 this year. He's getting into that period of his career where I think the expectations are coming on him. I think he had a down year last year in terms of points, and I think he'd admit it. I don't think he had the best season in a Wildcat shirt, and I think he needs to get back up to that point of game pace. I think he's going to play top line, second line minutes. Either way, he's going to get a lot of minutes, and I think he himself, with less competition for his role, I think he has got that top 6 role for the season, and I think with less competition for his role, and he knows he's got that spot. I think this is the year where Bally lets teams know who he is. He drops more sellies, and he has a good season. I think he'll have a good fun this year.
Yeah, I like that pick. I'm going to go. You can call me boring, but I think he is going to be the one to watch, Mr. One to watch of the whole league, along with a few other players. But that is Ryan Wells. I cannot wait to watch him play. Everything I've heard, everything I've seen, all on paper, all the stats, everything. He just seems like a great guy, and I think he's going to be a fan's favourite. And we've been not looking, but we haven't seen this type of player in a Swindon shirt for a long, long time. So I cannot wait to watch Ryan Wells. We spoke a lot about him earlier, so he's my ones to watch. Anything else to add, lads? I know we've gone on for over an hour, I think.
Dan's rubbish at NHL. I beat him. I beat him 13-8 last night, and yeah, he's humbled. He's humbled. Yeah.
Charlie, we know Dan's better. The fact you've had to bring that up, you know that he's better.
He hasn't won
the only time you've beaten him.
Last 2 games I played him, losses.
Well, we can't wait for this next season, obviously, as Swindon fans. I'd love to know what other fans as well think about Swindon from a rival point of view. What do you think about Swindon? Are you a bit more nervous to play them next season? Who's your one to watch for the Wildcats? And yeah, we're halfway through the team specials. We've got a massive interview which we've done, which is going to come out in the next special. So I can't wait for people to watch that one. But thank you again, Aaron, for hopping on. And we'll see you in the next team special. Peace.